Yes.
Cities, the population in Weaver counties, it's kind of interesting to look at that.
It's 6:30, so off we go. Thank you so much for coming tonight, I appreciate it. I'm Terry McCullough, I am the president of Weaver County League of Women Voters. And our mission in life is to educate voters, educate citizens on hot topics. Our last meeting that we had was on how do you tell the difference between the truth and the not truth. Which there's a lot of that out there. So we just try to get the public involved and learn some things. We register voters everywhere we possibly can. And we are nonpartisan and nonprofit. That's what we bring to the table is we have no, whoever wins, wins. You know, however that goes. So that's what the League of Women Voters is. What we are going to do tonight is we have all candidates together because basically they do work together. There may be a question or two I direct straight to the mayors and to the council, but probably not. What will happen is, first I should tell you, there's your timer too, right here, Marcia. Her 30-second pad is purple. You have 30 seconds left, and her other pad is yellow. I don't have the woman who was going to hit you with it here tonight, but she will. Very mean. We'll ask some questions. You'll get 2 minutes to start. Tell us whatever you want to tell us about yourself. Then every question I ask, we'll have a minute to answer. A minute's either long or short. Get to the point. Because it will cut you off if you talk a lot. And then when you end, we'll have a minute and a half for you to be able to sum up and tell us why everybody in this room should vote for you. I do have some questions here. Some of them are repeats, so I try to put them, combine them together. The one thing the league does not tolerate is rudeness, shouting out, ignorant comments to someone, or any question directed toward a person who is, that is not appropriate. So that's why we screen the questions. Make sure that nothing bad is said, sorry, we hope. So please, we hold our applause till the end, and they will deserve a round of applause when we're done. Okay, anybody else have questions? I really appreciate the turnout. Right on, Harrisville. I love it. Okay, we'll start first, and I will vacillate as we go. We'll start first with Roger, and you have 2 minutes to tell us how wonderful you are. And I'm sorry that there isn't a mic, but you've got to get, so you've got to go. In fact, I would stand up.
I'm standing. Can you see me? I'm Roger Schuman, and I'm running for mayor because I believe our city needs leadership that truly listens. For too long, residents have felt unheard, communication one-sided, and concerns go unanswered. I believe in open, responsive government that listens, follows through, and takes real action. As your mayor, I work for and represent the citizens of Harrisville. Not political agendas, but everyday people who live, work, and raise families here. We need to get back to the basics. A cleaner, better maintained city with well-kept streets, parks, and public spaces. People should feel proud of where they live and confident their tax dollars are being used wisely. I also support smart, balanced planning, not endless high-density development that strains our infrastructure and change the character of our neighborhoods. We need a plan that protects what makes the city special. We have to talk about spending. The current administration is bonding us to death. 8.5 million for a public works building and millions more for a city office and police station. Despite clear opposition of the public, over 850 residents signed a referendum to stop one of these bonds, and the city moved forward anyway. On top of that, just a few years ago, Harrisville raised our taxes by 166%. That's not sustainable, and it's not right. As your mayor, I'll bring back fiscal responsibility. Keep taxes in check and make sure your taxes is respected. I also support local businesses.
Sorry. It's hard for me to say.
It's definitely going to stop one of these days.
Is that a party or what?
Yeah, well, the timer's having a good time.
You tell me when. Okay. Good evening. My name's Michelle Tate, and I've had the honor of serving the residents of Harrisville City for nearly 2 decades. I've served for 9 years on the city council, and the last 8 years your mayor. And I did this in increments, not all at once. During that time, I've worked hard to build strong relationships with other cities, the county, and both elected and unelected officials. Collaboration matters. It's how we get things done. Through those partnerships, I've helped bring millions in funding to our city. After meeting with Representative Moore in Washington, D.C., we secured $2.5 million in appropriations for infrastructure. We also worked with the Utah Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity to bring in nearly $600,000 for road improvements. Under my leadership, Harrisville has received the CARES Act and the ARPA funds, as well as ramp grants for playground equipment, each dollar going directly towards improving our community. Developing and attracting new businesses has been challenging, but I've been actively working on that effort to strengthen our city's economy and expand our tax base. With the exception of our public works department, right now, our city staff is fully staffed and trained. That's been an 8-year effort because of how the city had looked before. We've got a team of exceptional people serving in every department. I also serve at the county at various boards. I'm on the county transportation and housing subcommittees. I give local input on the state mandates, which we have to follow. Beyond the city work, I volunteer with Weaver Communities That Care that help prevent youth alcohol, drug, and tobacco use. And I mentor recently released parolees, helping them reintegrate and learn positive values by example. Being mayor isn't a part-time job. I attend a minimum of 15 meetings a month, often from early morning to late evening, because I care deeply about the city and its future. It's rare for one mayor and 5 city council members to make a wrong decision. And I'm proud of what we've accomplished together. I truly love serving this community, and I hope to continue that service.
Jason.
I'd be honored to bring you vote.
So Jason Hadley, a candidate for city council. My wife and I, Sherry, we moved into Harrisville back in 1999. One of the things that drew us here was that feeling of community. And for those of you that have been in Harrisville for a long time, you know what I'm talking about. The feeling of a community that loves, cares, and serves one another. And those are the things that we have lost just a little bit of. And I think that there are things that we can do that will help us to improve our community feel. And that's one of the reasons that I'm running for city council. Some of the other reasons that I'm running for city council is, like has already been mentioned, there is a feeling of we need more transparency in our local leaders, and we need to build that trust that people have. And one of the ways that we can build the greatest trust is that when people have a question, when you ask that question, being able to find answers to that question, and not expecting our citizens to feel that they have to attend every meeting that the city will go on. I know I've been on that side of the chair as well. And the thing that I have felt is if I have to attend every meeting, then I want to have a vote. Representative government means that we have a vote. And it's because that they're listening to our questions or listening to our concerns and making sure that those questions and concerns get answered. I feel the best things that we can do to build our community again and make it the way that it has been is we need to have more community involvement, not less. I think we can strive to do that by helping to have citizen-led committees that will help us to accomplish the work that can be done in the city. We have many examples of committees in some of our neighboring cities that work very well. I also bring to the table that I have previously served as the Weber County Vice Chair. I've sat in many meetings, not only with people within the GOP party, but many of our elected officials. I have their numbers stored in my phone. We go out to lunch on a regular basis. And so if there are problems that are happening in the county or the state, I know how to get that done. Jason or City Council.
Get around.
Right. I'm a senior IT analyst and developer for a large Fortune 500 company. Recently, I've worked with AI, making our operations run smoother, faster, and most importantly, less expensive. Throughout my 25-year career, I've seen technology evolve so quickly that it almost makes your head spin. We need someone who will look at the problems facing Harrisville, come up with unique solutions, and will make a real impact. We need to review every process, policy, law, ordinance, and ensure that it makes sense and that it supports growth of Harrisville's businesses. I like paying taxes, but I like it better when somebody else pays the lion's share. We need to prioritize great locations that include startup incubators to help homegrown businesses thrive and expand in Harrisville. We need to stop pitting neighbors against neighbors by leaving code enforcement up to the city. It's unfair when our neighbors dislike each other, has a grudge, and uses the code enforcement to harass us further. That's why I will support hiring a full-time code enforcement officer who will be solely responsible for making sure all residents live up to the same standards. We need to restore a sense of that close-knit community. Somewhere along the way, we lost sight of the activities that once excited us and brought us closer together. I'll support initiatives that will have high impact, low cost, and help unite our community. I know we have a lot of questions ahead. I hope that by the time of the end of this Q&A, I will have convinced you to vote for me because together we can get Harrisville back on track. Thank you.
My name is Greg Montgomery. I grew up in Plain City, so some of the older people in Harrisville don't hold that against me. Harrisville, Plain City always had these battles in softball games and basketball games. But the reason I'm running is I feel I have some abilities and some experiences that can help bring people together. I've always believed that government is to represent the people, and the people are those who run the government, not the other way around. Just government telling people what to do. And collaboration is so important. Everything I've done through my career was a city planner for Ogden for 40 years, was to look at neighborhoods, get their input before any decisions are made or even before any ideas are first formulated. Because it's the citizens who live in a place every day, they know the problems, they know the things that work. And having them involved and having that collaboration is what makes community. If we don't feel that we're rooted into our community, it's just a place we live and just buildings. But community is more than buildings. Community is people. And people look out for each other. People sharing ideas. And I really think one of the most important things is a diversity of ideas is how you get the best solutions. You can't just have one idea and run with it, because sometimes you miss the problem. You're so caught up on the one seeing thing as an answer, you miss the underlying problem. And collaboration and discussion and public involvement are the keys to first help solve those problems. And that's one thing I've experienced. That's one thing I would promise to do as a member of the city council. Because the city council is not just one person, it's all of us working together. And I think that's why I felt it's important to run for this office. Yeah. Good.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brenda Nelson. Thank you, League of Women Voters, for putting this together and bringing us back for a second time. I've been in Harrisville for 20 years. I am a local business owner in Roy. I've been a principal broker for 28 years, and I love serving. I love serving our communities for all of Weber County and Davis County, but I love to serve even more in my hometown. And I feel like my expertise would bring some good stuff to the table. I did serve commission for 7 years and enjoyed it, learned a lot, and I feel like I'm ready for that next level. So huge advocate for affordable housing and fair housing. Everyone should be able to buy a home and not go broke, right, during the process. So I would hope I can bring some of that information to the table. And I'm just excited to hopefully serve on city council and do some good for the city and bring us back together again and do some more fun community events.
I didn't get the paddle.
I have a question, So I'm sitting in my chair being a good girl, but we'll start with Michelle. And the first question we have for you is, describe how you see controlled growth, controlled sustained growth.
Okay. The question, if you didn't hear it in the back, was describe how you would
Describe how you would describe sustained.
describe how you
controlled
describe
growth.
sustained controlled growth.
Marcia
That
started.
is the ultimate question, really. Everyone wants growth. Well, it's growth is coming, whether we like it or not. But everyone wants growth somewhere else, not in our own backyard. So that's really a hard thing to sustain. The only way you can really do that is if you control the land. Well, since we don't control all the land as a city or individuals, people have the right for personal property rights, and they get to bring up their projects to the city. Those things are vetted through the project management. They have to go through our ordinances, through the zoning everything is through the things that the city has approved or not. So it's not something that we can totally control, but we can direct it and guide it and try and get the best thing for our community, because of those things are coming, and we just want to make sure that we are doing the best we can with those things that are coming.
Is it going to be next?
Uh-huh.
Okay, just want to make sure. So I think one of the best ways that we can have controlled growth is one of the things that our city does, and every city is required to do, is to have a master plan. And the purpose of a master plan is so that you have checks and balances to know where are we going, what is the growth vision for our community, and how do we obtain that growth vision. Harrisville actually, I think, has a really strong and good master plan for growth. And one of the things that's in there is to have individual owned homes rather than rentals. I'm appreciative that we have that. And so everything that we do, any decision that we make, should always go back and check against that master plan and make sure that we're in alignment with the visions and goals that have been set. And I think that's how we have good, sustainable, controlled growth.
Steve Hempel for the guys in the back. Sustained growth looks to me like we need to take a step back. We've had plenty of time to do what's been on our table right now. And I think what we should do is really get a good sense of what we want as citizens to Harrisville to look like in the future. We all know what it looks like right now, but what could it look like in the future? And if we took a survey of everybody in the room or everybody in the city and said, hey, here's some ideas that we want to figure out what Harrisville should look like, perhaps then we could come to a consensus as to what it should look like. And of course, we need to make sure that that plan has a lot to do with our businesses as well. Thank you.
I think a couple things that are important are, first of all, have regulations that are clear and concise, so people know what to expect. And that also happens in the general plan. We have various areas in the general plan that say, well, it can be this, but if you're special, you can have this instead. And to create different standards for what you want to do creates confusion. I think it's important to have clear standards of what you want to have happen, where you want to have happen, and know the reason why. Is it accessible? Does it have traffic circulation that's good for whatever type of use it is? And in those areas that are more single family or maybe farms, then don't try to put higher density housing in. Use the old standard, if you will, called the transect of a gradual movement from higher density to lower density and higher densities on the main road, but don't bring them into the middle of the neighborhoods. Use those transitions and have a clear idea of what you want to have and then analyze what you have now.
I believe sustained growth would be to protect the character of our beautiful city and be very careful of some of the decisions we're making. As a few of them had said, we do need to follow the master plan when it comes to someone coming into planning commission and asking for a rezone. We need to really think about that and not just give it to them because we think we need the tax dollars. I also believe in, I talked about affordable housing a little bit ago, and we do need affordable housing, but we don't need apartments and townhomes. We need to work on some systems to help these younger generations get into homes with a lower payment plan, some kind of grant program. Again, we can't solve all of that, but we can bring that to the table and see what's out there.
After serving for 19 years in the planning commission, I think that a lot of the things have been already touched on, and the master plan is most certainly the map that we need to start out with. But we need to have citizens of our city communicate that to us to try to help us, so as we try to leave the city, we know what the citizens have in mind. And I don't think we should be going back and forth and trying to tailor fit any one particular area for one particular developer. I think if we have a master plan that is the way we want to stay with, I think that's the way we need to stick to it.
We will start with Jason. What is one goal you have to improve Harrisville overall?
I think one goal that I think would help improve Harrisville overall is the ability to have more opportunities to bring people together. I remember I know we do have our movie nights and I know we do have our fall festival, but how many of us in here remember having Heritage Days? I have heard that so many times as I've been out talking to people about bringing back our city days, not having a celebration that happens on a Tuesday evening on a school night. That's very hard for working parents and those people to get involved. If we're going to create community, we need great activities that will bring people together, and I want to restore that.
As I alluded to in the first part of my opening statement, code enforcement is a big deal. And I really would like to see us get to a place where all code enforcement is done by one individual. Somebody who was hired by the city goes around and holds every citizen to the same standard. This is really important because our community depends on neighbors loving each other and not pitting each other against each other. So the one thing that I would do to help improve Harrisville overall is hire code enforcement to make sure we do code enforcement equally. Thank you.
I think the top goal I would have as a councilman is to introduce or reintroduce the idea of how does a public meeting work, and that the people have a chance to give their opinions before a decision is made, not after a decision is made. And that even before a decision is made, maybe there's time set aside, let's mull over what we've heard and not act on it that day. Because the variety of ideas is what's important to help government work properly, especially on a local level.
Sorry.
Was that your timer?
That was not to cut you off. You still have another 30 seconds.
That's okay.
You have 30 seconds.
Sorry about that.
I would say, of course, there's more than one goal that I'll have as a city council member, but I think one of the goals that I think of is I want to be available. I want you to be able to come to me and talk to me about something that you're having, you see wrong with the city, like, hey, Brenda, can you go, pull this together and talk to some of the other council members? And I just want to be available. I feel like it comes back to communication. We need to be communicating more. I have a neighbor that doesn't get on the internet, doesn't check her texts, and she didn't know about tonight until I sent her a text this morning, and she's like, oh, I wish you would have told me sooner. So I feel like there should be a better way to be getting the message out to our citizens on what's going on in town.
I think the one thing that I would try to work on better would be the communication that we get when we go to a public meeting. I know I've attended many public hearings, and we kind of get the runaround as to that we give communication, but then we never hear anything back. And we don't seem to ever get the opportunity to voice our opinion before we get to a public hearing where they may or may not be able to communicate. So I'd like to set it up to where we can have that discussion before we go into it, not just have the attitude of we're doing this just because we have to do it. And we've heard that before as citizens. I've heard it, so other people that I've talked to. So we want to make sure that, I want to make sure that communication is much better.
Okay, one goal to improve Harrisville overall. Well, I feel like I've done a lot of goals. And hearing some of these bring back Heritage Days. We discontinued Heritage Days during COVID. One, because we couldn't meet, but two, because it was costing the city over $20,000 to do. You ask us to cut back, we cut back on Heritage Days. Code enforcement is a problem for anyone. We ask certain people to do that. Code enforcement is based off of people asking for something else. We don't police the city. We don't do anything like that. So code enforcement is also, yes, I would love a full-time code enforcement officer, but that also costs money. The public comments, I know that's been an issue for years. We brought it up before the council. Do you want to have it before the council meeting? Do you want to have it after? They voted that they would still leave it afterwards. So that's a council decision. Again, availability. I like that about Brenda. Today we had a lot of rain over the weekend, so I was, okay.
Okay, we'll start with.
Thank you.
Do you believe that all public meetings, with the exception of personnel actions, should be open to the public?
Yeah, okay. That's an easy one because
And why?
I like the and why. We can add to. So the question is yes. I believe that no decision should be made behind closed doors. And I like the caveat with exception of personal issues because we've all had those things where personal issues you've got to take care of, and that is a private matter. I think my dad said, criticize in private, praise in public. So I agree with that. So yes, I think it's a good idea. I think all of us should be willing to be able to hear whatever's being said, collaboration in public with all of the thoughts, the pros, the cons, etc. should all be for everybody. That way people can see what it is that we did to consider getting to the decision that we got to. Thank you.
And I'd say the same thing. I think that other than the personnel matters and potential legal cases, those are the two items that say law allows it to be a closed door session. But for everything else, I think it's important to have the public there. I think it's important to have the public speak on each issue before any action takes place, because without the variety of ideas or the familiarity the person might have of a certain area, things might go unnoticed. That's why the neighbors are there, and they hear something coming in and say, oh, well, do you know about the ditch here? Or do you know about this here? And it's completely gone from everyone else. Neighbors, the public help people understand what makes a community. And they know the terrain, and they also have ideas that are of value and should be considered before decisions are made.
Yes, definitely, the public, it should be open to the public. When I was on the planning commission, I do remember we did have some hot topics where we'd have 20, 30 people come up, and I would write notes on what every person said. I'd write down their name, and we take that to heart as a planning commission when we're making a decision, what the public thinks about our deciding factor, and we need to think about that, both planning commission and city council, how our public feels about everything. Of course, we do have to follow private property rights and all those fun rules, but I do believe it's very important, and I love seeing how many people are here tonight, so thank you.
So I believe that we should have open public meetings as often as we possibly can. I do understand the idea that, you know, personnel issues, and there's some legal issues that may not need to be out in the front of the public completely, but I think as much as possible, we should be open to all of our public meetings.
So let me understand the question. It said that our public meetings open to the public? Is that what
I
that,
believe that all public meetings,
all public meetings should
all
be open?
meetings should be open to the public.
So not all public meetings, all meetings?
Yeah.
Okay, because it's kind of redundant if you say all public meetings, that is
Yeah.
open to the public. And most of the meetings are open to the public. I don't see that there's ever been a problem with that. There are closed sessions, and that is usually to protect the city in any cases of buying property when the price is being discussed. Those are the only things that there should be a closed session for. Anything else is open. We have meetings almost every week that you are allowed to come to. Sometimes it's not involved. Sometimes it's just a developer wants to come and see if their project works with the city, and they get input. So yeah, I believe you can come and make yourself available. So a lot of those times when you're thinking that things have not been discussed, they've been discussed in those pre-meetings, and we have we have attorneys, we have people that know all the things about the ditches and everything else there. So it's quite a process before it ever gets to an open meeting, and as far as council goes. So yes, come and inform yourself, the better.
Yes, I believe that all meetings should be made public, but I think it needs to go even a step beyond that. Many of you have probably heard the saying, sunshine's the best disinfectant. The reason that is such a case is because when people can see clearly what's going on in their community, they're able to make better decisions and be able to get involved if they choose to get involved. One of the things that is rather difficult that we have is our lag in communication. For some of the people who are not able to be there, we put these meetings out onto Zoom, and they can easily be recorded and put out for the public to see. We can even put out all of the minutes within just moments following the meeting. But we have to wait until a month later to be able to see those. And so, yes, we need to have as much open as possible.
So, Greg, what will you do to support a vibrant economy in Harrisville?
I think there's 2 or 3 things that are important. One is to realize that, how our taxation works, and that the majority of our taxes are more sales tax and property tax in our budget and other items. So the idea of encouraging more commercial in key areas that attract commercial, I think that's the first part. The other part is looking at ways financial opportunities might be there to help those commercial properties so they'll want to be here. I think those are some of the key things to create that in the city.
Some things that come across my mind for a vibrant economy would be maybe we need to look at bringing in more commercial, seeing what we can, we need to be careful with that too, because we want it to be something that the residents will like and use. But I think that will lift us up a little bit as well. And I know we've talked about the youth programs. We need to, maybe get some better youth programs out there, which we know will cost more money. But again, community involvement, and maybe get some of the moms and dads involved, and the elderly. Maybe we need to do some stuff for the elderly as far as the city goes. And I know we do the we do a lunch or dinner here for the senior citizens, which I qualify for and I probably come to, just to come check it out, right? But I think we could do some more of that stuff.
I think we need to try to build places or have areas in our city where we can have more retail type businesses. I think so often we are tended to become the industrial area within the city, and I don't want to live in an industrial area. But I would sure like to have a Chick-fil-A in my back door.
Dairy Queen.
We see one going to Pleasantview, so
In and out.
I would most certainly encourage those type of businesses. I try to find places to put them.
So what would I support? What would I support in our economy? So how taxes work? Sometimes you don't understand this. That years ago, the legislature decided that they would not let everybody keep your own sales tax. You get a percentage in your city, and then they take the rest of that and they divide it up among all the other cities that don't have a really solid tax base. So we have to remember that when we have our Walmart in here, and people say, well, you've got it made, you've got a Walmart. Well, we share the proceeds of that sales tax with others. So you have to understand that. I can't read my own writing, that's a problem. I do know that Chick-fil-A, we lost out because there are not enough rooftops. And today I heard the expression that there's not enough heads in beds. So we have a dichotomy here because we don't have as many people as we need for those retail outlets, but we don't have the housing to do that either.
So in addition to some of the things that have already been said, I think one of the things that we do to support a vibrant community is we can start by doing things that can happen locally. There's not much that it would take to organize and put together, whether it's on our city or even a combined tri-city level of having our own farmers market. I also think some of the things that can be done to help support I hear the saying about rooftops. However, one of the things, we are not a destination city. Do you know how many people drive up and down Highway 89? All we have to do is tell them, here's the data of how many people are there. And that will get people to come in as well. We just got to be able to share with them the data. Because I can tell you, any business that knows where the traffic's going to be, that's where they want to be.
Oops. Yeah.
That was a chair that fell down.
We had a broken chair earlier, so maybe it was that part. It exploded finally. So a couple of ideas come to mind. And the first one is we really do need to try to attract businesses to come in to Harrisville, but not just businesses, startup businesses. People who have a great idea. Let's give them a place here in Harrisville where they can go start their business, get it up off the ground, find a place, a business, some sort of retail space or incubator space that they can go and move into and occupy for a small time. And then let's give them the opportunity to move into a bigger location. Let's get some of those people, some of those brilliant ideas. Did you know Utah is like one of the #1 places for new businesses to start? We have the people here. Let's bring them to Harrisville. Let's support them and try to get them up there. Other things that I'd like to see is walkable neighborhoods and mixed use spaces. Thank you.
Okay, I lost my mind. A lot of times it's brought up that we don't get citizens out to things. They don't read their email, they don't take the newspaper, they don't do it. Tell me one idea you have that would attract people to come to meetings or to go to events. And that would be great.
Of course she gives me the tough one. One idea on how to get people to come to events. I feel like we need to go back to mailing postcards. Postcard stamps are cheap, and if you do door to door through the post office, it's even cheaper. I don't know if cities would qualify for it, but I feel like maybe we start mailing postcards again, inviting people to come meet the candidates or maybe we have just a meet and greet and talk about what's going on in the city once a quarter. So I'm gonna say, let's go back to old timey, sending stuff in the mail.
You know, as I've talked to many residents around the city, one of the things I get told is, why should I go to a meeting? They don't listen to me anyway. And I think that was one of the things that I heard the majority of the time. I think we need to make sure that we are listening as public officials. As we go through the meetings, we need to first make sure we're listening to what people have to say. The next thing is we can, let everybody know what kind of information they have. I'll tell you what, there's an awful lot of people that see the letter that comes in the mail. And there's information that could be had by that too, to come to the meeting, and then encouragement to come.
All right, way a long time ago when we had Heritage Days, I was over that and I called people. I asked them to volunteer. I had a list of people that I would call and get them to come because they were volunteering. They were being an active part of that. I also went to businesses. I knocked doors. I did all those things. And I'm not afraid to make phone calls, and I still do that. And I feel like that's how we can get people if you really need to. With our fall festival, we partner with the school, and they have a great way to get information out. They've got all these kids that now go home and tell mom and dad and everything they want to be there. Our fall festival has way surpassed whatever Heritage Days used to be. And we have all the donations for that, so it doesn't cost the city anything but more than the fireworks to do that. And that, if you want to have something go out and have people attracted to events, you tell the schools, you partner with the schools, because they are always willing to do something for their children. I think that's a great way to start.
So I think that that's an okay idea, but when we have one problem with the idea of a school, we have one school that is in Harrisville that's not even brought to the table with that. What we need to be able to do to get people out, whenever people have an opportunity to serve, they will serve. When COVID happened in 2020, North Ogden Cherry Days has been going on for years and years. And I was amazed when they canceled Cherry Days, the uprising that was in the city. But guess what? They had one person step up and they had Cherry Days in 2020 without the city. We don't need the city to do it. We can find the people. The people are asking for it. We just need to bring it back.
Knowledge is key. We got to get the information out to them. There's new ways we can get to the information. I don't know if you've received my text messages. If you haven't, come talk to me afterwards and I'll get you on my list. But I've sent out at least 15 text messages over the last 2 months, 3 months. And that is specifically to keep you informed as to what's going on with me, with my campaign, with what's happening with what I feel is happening at Harrisville. So that's number one. Number two, we need to get our mothers and grandmothers involved. Give them a small budget. Give them something to do. They've got plenty of time. They either stayed home or they're retired or whatever. Let's give them something to get excited about. I've got a grandmother and a mother, and I'll tell you what, the one thing that gets me more motivated than anything is seeing her and making her happy. So I would come just to support her. So let's get our grandmothers and our mothers involved, and let's do this. Let's get that taken care of. Thank you.
I saw many of the women look and say, I have time. Especially when I'm retired. I think one of the important things to do is sometimes we need to go out to the people. We need to have the events in their neighborhoods, whether it be discussions of what's going on in your neighborhood to start planning, have it in their areas. Harrisville's got 5 different distinct areas. And to say, meet here, you need to go out to where people live and have their meetings there to gather information and collect things and get people involved. And then a final decision can happen in the city hall. But we need to go out to the people and where they live and have some of the events take place and have some of the discussions take place in their neighborhoods rather than coming somewhere else to have it happen.
This is for Roger to start. What plans would you like to see to maintain and upgrade upgrade the city's infrastructure, including roads, water systems, sewer, and transportation?
I think we have to have ongoing plans where we have revenue that's coming in that we put aside for those upcoming events, whether it's the sewer improvements, stormwater improvements, all those types of things that we have to be funding all the time. And we need to have that as an ongoing plan, that it's always in our budget, to put that money aside, not have to all of a sudden cough up $5 or $6 million to put in a sewer line or some other project we have to do.
So to upgrade the infrastructure, it's very expensive, and we have got funds that you can only, that come from development, that you can only use for those things. So this fund might be the sewer fund, and it can only be spent on sewer. This fund is or other things. They're enterprise funds. They can only be spent on what they've been collected to do. A lot of times we require developers to put that infrastructure in. If they're going to require another a drain on the infrastructure that we already have, they are required to put that in so that it doesn't involve all of the citizens that are already here. So the developers have to do that. And we also partner with Weber County and say, Weber County, they have so many funds that they have every year. We apply and have projects that we go to the county for, and they are ranked, and sometimes we'll get money, sometimes we won't. We have to fund a portion of that. So it's not like we can just go and ask for it. We have to have some of it to do that. But that's how we get our infrastructure in the city, is by doing that. Thank you.
I know there's always discussions about costs, but I think one of the things we don't want to do is we don't want to follow the example that Ogden City took when it came to updating infrastructure and all those things. They waited years and years and years to do it. And then when it finally became a crisis, then they acted. I think the best thing that we can do is identify, and I know we have tools and mechanisms to do that through the plans that we have regarding roads and what needs to be upgraded to have, so much traffic or things like that. But we need to be able to identify those projects, and we need to be working on them little by little, year by year, and not wait until everything has to be done all at once.
First thing is that we need to plan. It shouldn't be a surprise to us based on everything that I've heard from both the mayor and from other members here. We should really have a good idea as to what's coming down the pipe, right? So if we plan for something, we should be able to either look for grants to help offset the cost, find unique ways to finance it if we can, or which is probably the best way, save so that we can all make sure that we have the money in order to do it. If it's earmarked, great, let's use that money and let's get that stuff done. If it's not earmarked, then let's find good ways to do that. So my idea is plan, save, get somebody else to pay for it. Thanks.
So I think one of the important things for a city to have is a capital improvements plan. Now, the city just did one this year for the first time, but it didn't go far enough. Normally what you have is each department determines what are the maintenance things we do, what are their costs, and how long will it take before we have to then replace. And if you maintain something, that extends the life, so replacement is later. But if you can plan out each thing that the city has, whether it be a park, whether it be a road, whether it be a sewer line, have that in a plan, have it budget out what you need, and then start to prioritize those things in terms of maintenance, improvements, or new items. Then decisions can be made of where is the money going to be best spent for this coming year to keep things in condition that they should be, that citizens expect.
I agree with everything that's been said, and that's why all of us are up here running today as business owners and representatives. We need to learn how to budget and look at different strategies on stuff like this. Maybe we push some of it back to the developers. I know the city probably tries to do that as much as they can, But these are things we need to look into. Instead of giving it back to the citizens in taxes, maybe we try to figure other ways, like Steve said, have someone else pay for it. So.
Michelle, how are you going to be fiscally responsive for your city and keep a balanced budget? What is your plan for that? That's hard to do.
How am I going to be fiscally responsible? Well, it is law for the city to have a balanced budget. We cannot not have a balanced budget. So as we go into the budget season, which we'll be coming into right away, we have all the departments look at their budget, what they can do, what they need, what their needs are, what they have spent the last year, what they can roll over and not need for the next year. It's very important that we don't spend money that we don't have, that we know where our limits are. It's very important also to keep the services going in the city, because you definitely want your snow plowed, you want your drains to run, you want to be able to flush your toilets. Those are services that the city is required to have. Besides our safety, our public safety officers are very important, and you like to have them in the community. And those things are things we look at when we do our budget, when we are trying to determine the needs of the city, and we are all fiscally responsible for that. And I believe that we have created that, whereas before, 3 or 4 years ago, we weren't.
So I think fiscal responsibility always begins at the most basic level of, talking about how budgets can be made. I've heard it many times from different governmental organizations that many governments will take, here's where we're at, and this is a base level for our budget. And to do what we want to be able to do or need to do, we need to increase it by X number of percentage. That's called a base level model. And that might work for some things, but usually what happens is there have been projects that have happened that have now transpired that were on last year's books that aren't on this year's books. And so the best way to be fiscally responsible is always to start from build the house from the bottom up and make sure that every dollar is accounted for with what is needed.
Well, let's plan. Sounds like a broken record, but we need to plan for the future. So we know what our expenses could be this year. We have a good idea what they'll be next year and probably in the next couple of years. So if we are going to plan for what's happening today, we can project what's going to happen next year. Then we can also plan for what the taxes and what we are going to need. Now, how are we going to get there? We've already said this a couple of times. We need to attract new businesses, not just the established one. Let's get those small businesses, those little guys, the people that are just starting out. Let's give them some help. Let's get them to the city. Let's get them to stay here. Let's do all of these things so that we can enjoy the benefits when they become the next Facebook. Thank you. Wouldn't that be nice?
I think one of the key things is, each year as we move forward, we realize costs go up. We realize, the different things are taking place. And with Harrisville, 80% of each department budget is in personnel. And so when you look at that and you look at, okay, people will want to increase salary and that, we need to look at where is our level of service to the public? Because if most of our money is going to people in the community, if that's the important asset of the community, then that's good. But if there's other things we desire, we've got to start saying, okay, what is our level of service that we feel comfortable with? So that we can manage both the people who are working for the city and the things that the city wants to have happen in terms of the public, parks, and all the other things that go along with it. And that becomes the challenge. And that becomes each year a new view of how do I move forward? Am I ready? Okay.
Fiscal responsibility, I believe, as a council member, is to work close with your other council members. Make sure you understand the budget. Don't just approve the number because that's okay. It's a balanced budget. I want to know what's being spent and for what. And if we need to cut back somewhere, what are we cutting back? And I know it's a hard thing to do, and we have to work as a team, as a council team, approving that balanced budget.
I think that, well, certainly having a balanced budget is important since it's a state law. And I think the city has done a pretty good job of keeping a balanced budget. I don't think where we spent our money is necessarily where we should always be spending it. We have an edifice that sits on 750 West that we spent $8.5 million on, and we probably could have done just a nice building for $4 million. And again, nobody wanted to listen to us about those particular comments. And so, you know, we need to also look at what our current revenue is, but also how much debt we're bringing in to the city. So I know as a business person, you know, it's really hard to swallow $20 million worth of debt on $6 billion of income.
All right, this is, we'll start with Jason. How do you envision a more inclusive and equitable community, and what policies would you support to achieve that vision?
Can you repeat it just one more time? I'm not writing as fast as you were speaking.
How do you envision a more inclusive and equitable community, and what policies would you support to achieve that vision?
All right, that's a big question, so I'll do my best to answer it in as concise a way as possible. You know, as far as I think having an inclusive society, it's about having neighbors who care about neighbors, and you can't create policy to do that. But the policy that I think does lend to that more than anything else is when people have ownership, when people have something that's a tie-in to the community versus just being a renter, they do care about living in that community more. We already have laws and things like that on the books that talk about, you know, making things equitable and inclusive. And I think if we just abide by the laws and we make pathways forward for people to have ownership, that will help us to have an inclusive community.
Can you hear me? More equitable and inclusive. Equitable, how do we make Harrisville so that it is more, that we all are working together towards a common goal? And that is just to give us a vision. We need a vision, something that can help all of us unite together. Let us all, it sounds like it's gonna take off. Let us all get together. Let's do some fun things together. Let's build relationships together. Let's work as both the city and the citizens together so that we can all enjoy the benefits of being inclusive. Now, what policy would I use? I think really we need to go back to enjoying our grandmothers and our mothers, and let's really start supporting all of that. It's gonna take money, that's true. How much money? I don't know. Probably not a lot though.
I think, like has been mentioned, a couple things that are important in inclusive neighborhoods is neighbors getting to know neighbors and neighbors looking out for each other. Now, that's not something the city can regulate. But there is things that we can promote as groups, as neighborhoods, as a community, of gatherings, activities, getting to know each other. And once you get to know someone, that takes down a lot of barriers that you've already preconceived and why you don't go to your neighbor and see somebody. Anything we can do to try to create those activities, to get to know each other, and not only just in our area, but in the other sections of Harrisville. Like I said, we have about 6 sections of Harrisville that are all completely isolated from the others. I mean, the only roadway you can go from the north to south of Harrisville is Highway 89. There is no other road that you can drive in Harrisville and see all Harrisville. Everything else has to go throughout other communities. And those create some problems. But if we can try, we'll stop at that point.
I think what came to my mind during this discussion was thinking of our new family promise that just came to Harrisville super excited about that. And I think what enlightened me about that, we talked to some neighbors where their house backs up to this new building. And thankfully, we had talked to the director of Family Promise, and she said some of the neighbors were concerned that this Family Promise was going to be like the Lantern House. We were able to assure these neighbors, since we had talked to the director, that no, it's not going to be like that. It's totally different. It's for families, and so I was excited, and I'm hoping that kind of falls under this question. But I feel like getting involved, like I can't wait till it opens and I can start volunteering and just welcoming them to our community. It's something cool that we're going to have.
I think this is probably one of the hardest questions we've had so far today. Inclusive and equitable. I think trying to define those two things can be very difficult, particularly from a city's perspective. Because we do have renters in some places, homeowners in others. We want to include everybody, but yet I can't force all my neighbors to love one another. I know Sunday we had a event on our street. It was Harrisville residents. I'm sure if you want to be invited, we could all give you an invite, but it was for Pi Day, and it was non-descriptive, it was everybody that lived on 750 West on this side of the highway. That had an invite, that came, and I won't say that everyone came, but it was also kind of cold. So, but we know that from our city,
I also think that this is a really hard question because you cannot govern this by policy. People have to genuinely care about their neighbors. And I feel like that's what I've tried to foster, that if we can care about our neighbors, then we uplift each other, and all tides, or a rising tide lifts all ships, right? And I feel like that's what we need to do. Unfortunately, since this question is answered, I'm going to be honest with you. I've seen a division in the last year that I have not seen before, and it's very disappointing to me to see that we have divisions in Harrisville that we've never had before. The east side and the west side. I don't like that, and I feel like we need to stop whatever that was, and come together as a closed community again. I can't govern that. I can't tell you what you need to do, but I feel like we as a people in Harrisville, we can do better, and we can love each other. And I think it is love, because I feel like I have always tried to treat everyone with respect, whether they live anywhere in the city. And I cannot govern that, but that's who I am.
Go ahead.
Let's see, we will start with Steve.
Okay.
How do you plan to keep your own personal opinions out of whatever decisions you make?
Okay. It's easy. I'm not the one whose opinion really matters. Listen, find out what you guys want. Communicate, get some surveys out there. Like, let's go and see what everybody here might enjoy. Like, if there's an issue, I've probably got an opinion on it, and maybe it's a good one. But as most of my family members say, it's not always right. It's probably not always the best. So how will I keep it out? I'm gonna listen. I want to know from both you and from the other people on this in the city what we all think, and then come up with what we think is the best way to go. We're not going to agree. You're probably not always going to agree with me, and I probably won't always agree with you. But somewhere in that argument, we'll find some sort of consensus. We won't make everyone happy all the time, but hopefully we can move the city in the direction that we would like. Thank you.
I think one of the important things is to listen first, ask questions, let other people discuss. Then once you hear their opinions, then you can share yours. And that way that dialogue is created to then start to say, now let's work together on that, instead of saying, this is how I think it should be and that's all I'm going to do. Unless you hear other people first to help formulate your ideas. That is the key. It's, now there may be discussions going on, And I always think of the comment of just be firm to principle and flexible to delivery. There are things that you know should happen, but that will take place as people are educated and form a common consent. They may not agree, but now they know, and that discussion is taking place to understand each other and then be able to move forward.
How do I keep my personal opinion out of decisions
Yes.
I make?
How do you keep it so that it's not your personal opinion driving the decision you make?
Good answer. And I'm going to use my profession as, I use that a lot in my profession when I am out selling houses or doing inspections. I have to keep my personal opinion to myself and let the person make that decision. And when taking that back to city council, same thing. We will have, I'll have to keep it to myself, but also give my expertise of what I think of that topic at the moment.
That's a tough one because I think that when you elect people, you elect them for their personal opinions in one sense. And so I think any decision you're making, you're going to have some personal opinion behind that. And so I don't know exactly how to answer it, tell you that I'm not going to use my personal opinions to make decisions because most certainly that's the only thing I know how to make a decision by is what my personal opinions are. I most certainly will listen to all the citizens and see what their input is. And you may sway my personal opinion based off of what you guys feed back to me. But I still have my own personal opinion.
I have to agree to that because don't we all have our own personal opinions about whatever happens in front of us? We make our own personal opinions and sometimes we have people that come along and their argument might reinforce that personal opinion or it might negate that personal opinion. So I think we just have to be open to discussion, listen to others. And then if you are on the council, you need to make a consensus and maybe take your own personal opinion out of that and just let the general vote rule. Because I also believe your personal opinion is why you land here, why you are voted, because people know who you are and they know that they can count on your decisions from the past and what you can do. Yeah, so I believe your personal opinions matter. You just usually have to keep your emotions out.
I agree with some of that sentiment. I also do agree, though, that in order to make good decisions, there's 3 guiding principles that always need to be in there. First, the IQ of the group is always greater than the IQ of an individual. And understanding that a good leader doesn't always have the answers. They just know when to recognize the right one. And I think the other thing that I think is the most important one, you can never understand a person's journey until you've walked a mile in their shoes. And when you take into account other people's perspectives, usually you find the right answer.
Okay, I'm going to ask you one last quick question. In one word, tell these people a little bit about your personality and why that trait would make you a good representative. Did you start, Steve?
I did, sir.
Oh, no. Point it to me.
Yep, it's all you then, it's all you.
Do I have a minute to think about it?
No.
Okay.
You don't get time to understand.
I think if I was going to say one word, it would be caring.
I'm going to go with integrity.
Roger.
Leader.
Michelle?
First thing that came to mind is integrity.
Mine's hyphenated.
That's a weird one.
Service oriented.
Oh, you like that one. Steve?
Optimistic.
Oh, cool. Thank you. All right, now you get 1.5 minutes to tell us why you're the best person every one of these people should vote for. And start first, we start with Fred.
Oh.
Okay, I wasn't prepared to be the first one to go, but I will give it my best shot. Taking a few notes along the way. Okay, writing down things and listening to what we have to say tonight. All of us are very good leaders, and you have a really good team here, and whoever gets voted in, we're gonna be in good hands. I'm excited for our city. We've talked about a lot of things tonight, but we all need to be sincere and follow through with it. If we're saying we're going to do something, don't get it put into city council and don't do it. I want to implement it, get it done, and make sure we're doing what we said we would do. So I hope I'm working hard, hitting the doors, and I would love to be voted into city council. I feel like I would be a good asset to the city. And I know it's going to be a hard decision. Like I said, we do have some very good candidates here, and I appreciate all of you being here tonight.
Appreciate y'all coming tonight and listening to our gibberish. And I think the things that stand out to me most is that if I'm elected, most certainly I'll do everything I possibly can to communicate to the citizens, whether it's in a public hearing or in some other forum, what's going on in the city. You know, I'm concerned about the city. I'm concerned about my taxes continuing to go up. I know we talked about 166% tax increase that we had a few years ago, but I know the bottom line was my pocketbook felt a whole heck of a lot more than 166%. You know, just my Harrisville portion went up almost 3 times. And that's because there was also a huge increase in the value of my home. And I didn't experience that. At the end of the day, I'll be here to work for you. I'm not here to work for myself. I'm not here to build any big buildings or any fancy things. I'm here to try to control costs. I'm here to represent you, the citizens of Harrisville.
So over the past few years, we've created real momentum in Harrisville. Momentum I want to continue building on. I'll keep working to strengthen our city's revenue sources to support balanced budgets and maintain the essential services the residents rely on. As growth continues to come our way, I will ensure that housing and development remain in the best interest of our community, guided carefully, planned responsibly, and always keeping Harrisville's character in mind. I will continue nurturing our partnerships with neighboring cities and county. These relationships truly matter. They make a difference when we need mutual aid with our police department and other public safety items during snowstorms, floods, and fires. They show what collaboration can achieve. I look forward to working with new city council members and helping them get the training that they need to serve effectively. I'll also continue our city newsletter to keep residents informed and support both our youth and senior programs that bring our community together. Harrisville's been my home for 31 years, and I've been honored to serve it faithfully. I've proven that I can do the job, and I would sincerely appreciate your vote and continued support. Thank you.
So I'm actually kind of lucky I have my parents here in the audience this evening. I want to share just 2 lessons that I learned from my dad. The very first lesson is, if you're going to do a job, you got to do a job right so that you can put your name on it. And that meant a lot to me. And so my name is synonymous with what I do. And so I can promise you that if elected, I will give 110%, not just 100. The second thing that I learned while working with my dad, we took care of lawns for churches. And we pulled up at a church this one time, and this lady was out, old lady was out pulling weeds. And my dad was like, you know, we can help with that. You don't need to do that. And she said, oh yeah, I do. Because you can either complain about it or you can do something about it. That's why I want to be elected as your representative. I want to work for you. I want to help create the community that all of us can be proud of, that we can work together and make this community what we want it to be. So that's why I would love to be your representative. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. It's really nice to see you. It has been enlightening to see everybody here, both there's smart people here, both up here and here, that are really working hard and want the best for Harrisville. We do have a bright future ahead of us. Harrisville has millions in debt. That's okay. I'm an optimistic kind of an individual. We didn't have this debt 4 years ago, but there's nothing that we can do about that money. It's already been spent and allocated. But not all hope is lost. We can find creative solutions, such as merging our police department with our small neighbors. Done right, it would make the new public safety building the hub of a multi-city collaborative effort, helping us offset the expense of the bonds, ensuring Harrisville remains vibrant and viable far into the future. On all of my flyers, I put my cell phone because I genuinely want to hear from you. So if you don't have my cell phone number, please come up to me and I will give it to you. You can text me and you'll hear my phone go off. You can also visit my website at templeforharrisville.com for more information about me and my ideas. So on November 4th or the 15th, when you get your ballots, vote for me. And together, let's get Harrisville back on track.
Well, the four of us who are running for the two city council positions, you'll notice a lot of us have some very similar thoughts and ideas. I think the thing that sets me a little bit apart, and I always like to quote that it's I have a distinctive skill set, is the things that I've experienced over the years. Some people will say, well, he's old, he doesn't have any new ideas. But I've been around enough that old is pretty good because you've experienced things and you've seen what works and what doesn't work. And as I've been around the country, seeing those things, I can discern what is a flash in the pan idea and what is a sustainable idea. And I think that's one thing that helps set me apart from the other three who are, again, we have the same basic things we want to see happen in Harrisville. But I think that skill set I have of understanding a design, how to get people to work together and collaborate together are important things that I bring that may be a little bit different because of the experience I've had and being able to draw upon those experiences.
A couple of things I didn't tell you. These have been live streamed. It's live streamed on Weaver County League of Women Voters. It will be there for 30 days. So if someone didn't get to see it or you'd like to see it again, go to Weaver County League of Women Voters. And I will also send each one of those a link to the Zoom recording of it so that you can go in, hit that, watch it whenever you wish. Okay? There's also a program that we have that's called Vote 411. You go to vote411.org and put your address in, and it will pull up the candidates that you will be voting on. They've been asked some questions, and you can read some of their answers, and I think everyone there has done this here. But everybody always says, well, I don't know who these people are. Well, go find out. You know, right on one specific page. So don't hesitate to do that. I want to thank these guys. Most people would not run for office because you just stuck your underwear out. So they do deserve a round of applause for really impressed with all of the cities here too. With the integrity these people show, I just am impressed. And so you've got good choices to choose from. This is a nonpartisan election. Go with what you think, you feel will be in your best interest. You don't need to write it. You don't need to do a religion. You don't do anything. Make it be what you feel is the best for you and your family. Hey, thank you so much. You can say going home.
Thank you.
My water bottle.